Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Israel's allies have condemned a vote in the Israeli parliament banning the UN's Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA from working within the country. The laws, to come into effect within 3 months, bar UNRWA from operating in Israel and annexed East Jerusalem, and severely curtail its ability to work in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. Israel has objected to UNRWA for decades, with this intensifying over recent years. It alleged that some of UNRWA's employees were involved in the 7th of October attacks. The UN held an investigation and fired 9 staff members at the time.
UNRWA plays a critical, important role in delivering humanitarian assistance to civilians that need it in Gaza. That's not the only role they play. They play an important role providing services to Palestinians in the West Bank and throughout the region as well. But they really play an irreplaceable role right now in Gaza, where they are on the front lines getting humanitarian assistance to the people they need it. There's nobody that can replace them right now in the middle of the crisis. So we continue to urge the government of Israel to pause the implementation of this legislation. We urge them not to pass it at all. And we will consider next steps based on what happens in the days ahead.
The Palestinian Civil Emergency Service says at least 55 Palestinians have been killed and dozens others wounded in an Israeli strike on a residential building in the northern Gazan city of Beit Lahir. It added that many victims were believed to still be trapped under the rubble. The official Palestinian news agency and Hamas media reported the same figure. Many of those killed in the strike were women and children. There was no immediate Israeli comment. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has met with the Georgian Prime Minister in Tbilisi 3 days after the ruling party declared victory in an election which the opposition says was marred by voting violations. Mr. Orban paid a surprise visit to the country after Georgia's Electoral Commission said Georgian Dream won Saturday's election with nearly 54% of the vote, but opposition parties disputed the results and called for protests. Here, drone footage of thousands of protesters gathered on Monday outside the Georgian parliament. Election observers have said there were significant violations. The election results are a blow for pro-Western Georgians who had cast the vote as a choice between a ruling party that has deepened ties with Russia. North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia and are operating in the Kursk border region where Ukrainian troops have a foothold, that's according to NATO. The alliance's Secretary-General Mark Rutte has said he could confirm the deployment after weeks of intelligence reports following a meeting with South Korean security and defense officials. The newly installed NATO chief said the deployment represented a significant escalation and a dangerous expansion of Russia's war in Ukraine.
The deployment of North Korean troops represents a significant escalation in the DPRK's ongoing involvement in Russia's illegal war.
The former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has admitted that he kept a death squad to crack down on crime while mayor of one of the country's largest cities. In his first testimony before an official investigation on his so-called war on drugs, the 79-year-old said the squad was made up of gangsters. Duterte won the presidency by a landslide in 2016 on the promise of replicating his anti-crime campaign in Davao City on a national scale. The nationwide drug war saw thousands of suspects killed in controversial police operations and is now being investigated by the International Criminal Court. And a huge Maya city has been discovered centuries after it disappeared under a jungle canopy in Mexico. Archaeologists found pyramids, sports fields, causeways connecting districts and amphitheatres in the southeastern state of Campeche. They uncovered the hidden complex, which they have called Valeriana, using LIDAR, a type of laser survey that maps structures buried under vegetation. They believe it is second in density only to Calakmul, thought to be the largest Maya site in ancient Latin America. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.